welcome to not Tyler Hoover's Buick Park Avenue Ultra. This used to be his Park Avenue Ultra. Now it belongs to my friend Jay, who will now be selling it soon. And he's asked me to take photos of this and a Toyota Previa, which also is not Tyler Hoover's, and it actually wasn't either. It is similar to the one he had, but it's a manual. Anyway, we're out now in this beautiful, luxurious ode to mid-90s American excellence. And it's a very interesting experience. I've never driven one of these before, and even though my first car in high school was a 2000 Buick LeSabre, this is very much of a different time. The LeSabre was redesigned in 2000. This is the earlier style where the Park Avenue and the LeSabre and the Bonneville and the Oldsmobile 88 all kind of looked basically the same. And I'm actually astonished by how many features this thing has and how incredibly 90s it is in here. Also, this drives so good. It drives so well. Oh, a little bit of supercharger. Wow, that is torquey. Cruising along in this, it's very easy to see why the LeSabre and Park Avenue were some of the best-selling cars of their time. The ride is great. This comfort is amazing. These seats are absolutely ridiculous. And look at all these buttons you've got to play with. Oh, chrome plastic. And it also has one of the best automatic climate controls I've ever used. Set, of course, to the correct temperature. It just does a great job of getting the car to a temperature as quickly as possible and staying at that temperature. And also the volume knob. The volume knob moves when you push the steering wheel buttons, which is just adorable. The purpose of this video isn't necessarily be a review of these cars, though I will be doing a little bit of that. It's just as a photographer, I kind of wanted to walk through the process. I've done quite a few of these auction shoots now, and they're pretty sterile, but, you know, I thought it'd be an interesting look behind the curtain, so to speak. Can I get over, please? It is very strange. The door mirrors are mounted back, like in the middle of the door, and it's a very weird effect. Oh, it's fast. Oh, it is actually fast. When it kicked down a gear, it just went. This would be the L67 Series 2 Buick 3800, I believe, with an M90 blower on it, if this is the year that I'm thinking of. I don't know much about these older ones. Oh, that's great. One of the most important parts of shooting a car is finding an appropriate place to shoot it. So I'm trying to find a very appropriate place to shoot this Buick. And here, after just a few miles of cruising down Kellogg Avenue, is this an avenue still? We'll reach our destination. Yeah, it works. But let's talk about what I'm shooting with. From the immensely comfortable back seat of this Buick Park Avenue, this is just a Sony A6000 with a Sony E-mount 1.8 50mm. For the exterior shots, I use a kit lens. For the interior shots, because it can get a bit wider. 50mm on a crop body is pretty narrow, and I've got to definitely zoom with my feet in order to get the whole car in frame with this. But it does have pretty good optics. Stop down to 5.6 or f8. It's incredibly sharp, and it's really good. The thing about shooting for auction versus like for yourself or for a client who just wants nice pictures of their car is, you gotta just show the car as it is, as accurately as possible, and you don't want to be overly artsy with it. I mean, sure, this is a 1.8, but I'm definitely not going to be shooting wide open, because a shallow depth of field may look cool, but then you put it on an auction and people are just like, well, why is the back half of the car out of focus? This is actually my second or third camera. I started out like 15 years ago messing around with my dad's CD Mavica, and then ended up with a Sony D3100, I believe, that I bought when I shot for I actually got back into photography by shooting for a dealership some 5 years ago, and that was absolutely soul crushing. I don't recommend it. If you're a photographer, don't shoot for a dealership. You get basically no skills, you have no creative freedom, and you have to do the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over. It's absolutely soul crushing. Just keep it as a hobby. Like, if you want to get into photography, treat it as a hobby, because it's going to be a money sink, but that's how it's the most enjoyable, to me at least. I mean, this is what worked for me. I've got a circular polarizer here to try and cut down some of these reflections. I'm probably not going to film much while I'm outside the car just because it's super noisy here and you won't really be able to hear me. I mean, one of the major roads in Wichita is right there. But exterior shots, let's get those knocked out. I personally shoot an aperture priority for this. Full manual really isn't necessary for this sort of shooting in the daylight when I'm really not trying to get anything super special or specific done like light painting. I'll just do aperture priority and I'll generally stop down a bit. I'll go to a wider aperture for the front and side shots since the entirety of the car is on one plane, so I can get away with a shallower depth of field while still keeping everything that you're seeing in focus, and that gets it just a little bit more background separation. It looks a bit nicer. Just gonna flip the car around so I can try and keep the bingo parlor in the background. This isn't, again, like the most artsy thing ever. Just start the car back up because it is getting hot in here. That starts up so nice. All right, just flip this around, get the back side, and then we'll do some of the exterior detail sticking with. After getting my 8 primary directions, front, back, left, right, and all 4 corners, I got detail shots of, you know, the lower bumper areas, the side moldings, the lights, badges, that sort of thing. And then someone showed up in a truck and gave me the stink eye until I left. And the interior and detail shots I can really do just about anywhere, so I'm gonna head to somewhere different. This happens quite often, you know, especially with small businesses. The owner will be, you know, at home staring at their security cameras all day and wonder what on earth is that guy doing. Legally speaking, if it's a place that is typically open to the public and there's no trespassing signs, it's perfectly legal for you to take pictures there, and you can legally, in every state that I'm aware of, take pictures of anything that is visible from a public location. So, legally speaking, no trouble, no harm, no foul, nothing there. Just, I've got social anxiety and don't want to deal with some person who's wondering what I'm up to. So since malls are doing so well in America these days, I'm sure that I'll be able to find space in this massive mall parking lot to shoot the rest of this car and get it all ready for its debut. This road is terrible. So now I'm finished with the exterior. I went around and did a pass just to get any like dings or body damage or any flaws that the car has. Auction websites, you know, you're buying a car essentially sight unseen, is important to have that stuff. I went and swapped over to my kit lens, and now we're going to do the interior starting with the trunk so that I can put my bag in there and not have to keep it out of the shots. Oh my gosh. That is huge. It just goes. That is insane. That'll hold my camera bag while I shoot everything else, I think. Yeah, okay, that's cool. One of my favorite shots to get of the interior is this view here from the back seat looking forward. It gives a very impressive, not very often seen view of the car. Oh, I need to make sure that I straighten the steering wheel though. And what I typically do for a lot of these interior photos is I actually bracket them, which is taking a shot at 3 different exposures and then blending them later in Adobe Lightroom to kind of help with the fact that there's a whole lot of dark and a whole lot of bright in here, and I need to try and present that as the eye sees it. And obviously my camera doesn't have anywhere near the ability to see light and dark that my eyeball does, so I need a little bit of help there. Unfortunately, that does add a lot of time to the editing process, but I find that it's typically worth it. The results are just so much better that way. Look at these seats though. These things are ridiculous. I love old luxury cars like this where like the padding is kind of like this separate piece. Like this is a normal chair and this is all this added on padding, and it's amazing. This back seat. Oh man. Oh man, I just sink into it. That is fantastic. 10 out of 10 would drive cross country in. Well, the interior shots are done. Those are all pretty standard. You get your dashboard, your gauge cluster, seats from the front and the rear seats from the front and the rear, just sort of the whole seat area, all the door cards, any detail of buttons and switches and whatnot, all the mirrors. And now I have to figure out how to pop the hood, which I thought I did, in order to shoot the engine. Also, for the mechanical shots, I generally like to get my lens as wide as I can and just take a shot from the ground under each corner of the car. Just kind of show the general condition of the underbody, if there's any massive leaks, stuff like that. Good to have there. If you can get it on a lift, that's amazing. Shots on a lift are a great addition to any auction, but I don't have such a luxury, unfortunately. Though, if BenPack wants to send me something, that'd be amazing. I think that does it for the Park Avenue. Nothing left to do now but just put it back in drive and waft on back to the owner's house and grab the Toyota Previa, which I'm really looking forward to. This is it. This is the pinnacle. This is the best car ever made. Toyota Previa with a stick. I love it. The last time I drove a Previa was actually Hoovies, but before Hoovie owned it, which was an automatic supercharged one. I think it was rear wheel drive. This is better. This is a lot more fun. And even though it's slower, it feels a lot quicker with like the direct connection to the rear wheels through the gearbox. I mean, it's not fast, and there's no reason to ever beat one of these up, ever, and probably best if you don't. But, like, just half throttle, just driving normally, this thing actually feels perfectly adequate. This thing's great. I mean, the shifter's pretty sloppy, but just look at this view that you have of everything. I can see the whole universe out of this car. The freaking visibility is amazing. You sit up real high. Like, I feel like I'm higher up than this Nissan Rogue. That's the playing gear. It's not terrible. I don't hate it. It's good. It's not great. It's certainly adequate, especially for a minivan. The clutch feel in this thing's pretty nice as well. I was able to just maneuver through the Quick Trip parking lot without even touching the gas, thanks to a really easy to use clutch and a lot of torque, like a shocking amount of low down torque out of what I believe is a 2.4 liter four cylinder. Mind you, a 2.4 liter four cylinder from the 90s. Yeah, I think that works. While humorous, unfortunately, the Jimmy's Egg parking lot is just too small for anything more than that one amusing picture. So I gotta find somewhere else. Really, this thing isn't all that bad on the highway either. Just kind of goes. Something I've just discovered is that Toyota engineers have found a way to pack gale force winds into the Toyota Previa. If you turn the blower motor all the way up, I feel like I'm gonna have to hold my hat on. That is insane. Gale force winds aside, after like an hour of driving around, I finally found a spot to shoot this car after striking out absolutely everywhere. I just wanted some trees for a background, but like every park is packed full of people because it's a nice day out. Go figure. Exterior, here we go. Unfortunately, this park is also filling up rather quickly, and I feel like I'm gonna get some looks for the way that I'm parked, so it's fun. Now, there were two versions of the Toyota Previa. One of them had swiveling captain's chairs in the second row that could turn around to face each other. This one, in my opinion, has the far better setup because you can recline the second row. And have a bed. A pretty comfortable one at that. Last time I drove one of these, my wife came with me to shoot it, and she wanted one. She wanted one so that we could take it places and not have to bring a tent. I really want to do that someday. Man, I wish I had the money to buy this thing. And of course, there's the other neat thing, the front accessory drive. Let's see if we can see it. There's the AC compressor in there, no engine. Alternator, all those belts, and then real tough to see the drive shaft back there, connecting it all to the engine and the radiator. A wild little car. All right. So I've got my interior, exterior, all my detail shots. I laid down in the bed for a bit. Time to go take this thing back, and it's been, let's see, four and a half hours or so to shoot these two cars, and editing's probably gonna take, I don't know, 2-3 hours. We'll see. I just got a new computer, so maybe it'll go faster. Back at the house, got some editing help here. Oh, he likes that. Yeah. And then there's this one who's just whining. But I got all my photos imported. We're just gonna go through, and could you not do that? This one. He just wants to go out and bark at the neighbors. He's not gonna, though. So really, a majority of editing is I normalize the lighting in each one of these, make sure that they're all exposed roughly the same, and then just kind of develop a preset for the different situations. So I'd probably make one preset that more or less covers all these exterior Buick shots. And then, let's see, the interior stuff. I've got a whole bunch of these bracketed exposures like this one, where you can see it's 3 different brightnesses, and then I just go in and stack those together, and that has to process, and then that produces an image with without any blown out or unusably dark spots, which I can then edit from there. So the interior photos all look decent. A lot of the editing process is straightening stuff out, because it's just, I have such a hard time for whatever reason getting stuff perfectly level in camera. Like, that's not level at all. That needs fixed. Let's see. Unlike, you know, most photo shoots, I didn't take like 40 of the same image, because it's kind of a different goal here. With the usual car photo shoot, I'm aiming for like 2 or 3 really stunning photos. For a auction photo shoot, I'm aiming, I can't or don't want to throw away any photos. They all have a purpose, so they're all kind of, I have to make them all work somehow or another. Let's look at the Previa stuff. How did that one turn out? That was such a quick snapshot. There was a whole bunch of traffic and people staring at me. It was super uncomfortable, and I didn't have room to use my 50, so I went out there with my kit lens and just kind of snapped this, and it's okay, I guess. But look, it's Jimmy's egg. So I guess I'll start editing, and I'll probably see you guys in like an hour or so. And there we have it. That's all of the photos edited. It's actually a few days later now, but that was more or less the editing process. One thing I forgot to mention is that I usually shoot with my camera with auto white balance turned off. That can help speed up the process with a whole bunch of images like this by keeping the white balance from changing from photo to photo. It'll probably be wrong, but at least then you can go into one image and set the white balance compensation in Lightroom and then apply that to the rest of the images in the set just for a quick, hi cat, quick instant white balance fix. I did actually just find out that the Buick was rejected by Cars and Bids. Not sure the reason, but keep an eye out for it on the internet at large. It's still a great car, and I definitely suggest taking a look at it, especially if you're local. The phrase "they don't make them like they used to" is probably a bit worn out by now, but they really don't make boats like that anymore, and it's a really neat example of that era of just American luxury. Hope y'all enjoyed this kind of look behind the curtain at sort of what it goes into a photo shoot like this. I think between driving and shooting and editing, I've probably got about 10 hours into this or so. You know, not terrible, but, you know, a decent amount of work. And I think the results are pretty decent. Man, this thing does not like this low light. Thanks for watching.